Welcome to Lesson 6.3, Part 1, Understanding and Resolving Conflict. So what is conflict? Conflict is a disagreement in values or beliefs within oneself or between people or organizations. And when addressed respectively and assertively, it has the potential to strengthen relationships and stimulate beneficial changes in the practice environment. Conversely, when it is avoided or used as a vehicle to dominate others, it erodes trust and fuels hostile work environments. And I'm sure we've all seen both sides of it. So when conflict is managed in a collaborative fashion, empowering individual voices and working towards solutions that honor diverse perspectives within the team, then relationships are strengthened and congruence is promoted. Now, we know that conflict is inherent in clinical environments that are driven by patient needs, which are complex, often unpredictable, and frequently changing. Also, when nurses operate in a state of survival, feeling little control or autonomy in their workday, they are more likely to react from a place of threat when unpredictable events or opposing opinions present themselves. And so, adding to this, highly stimulating work environments leave little time for nurses to be proactive because of constant distractions. And so, it's hard in those high pressure settings to be thinking straight. And oftentimes, conflict will arise in those situations. So, we know nurses are often exposed to these high stress levels because of increased demands on themselves with an ever limited and aging or an inexperienced workforce, maybe a decreased in available resources, a more acutely ill patient population, and a rapidly changing practice environment. And so, in these practice environments, unresolved conflict among nurses is a significant issue, resulting in job dissatisfaction, absenteeism, and turnover. And so that's why it's really important for nurse leaders to understand these kind of root causes of where conflict may be brewing. So, nurses employed in healthy practice environments report more positive job experiences and fewer concerns about quality care. In addition, healthcare settings with positive nurse physician relations are associated with better patient outcomes and increased satisfaction with nursing. And I've definitely seen that with my work at Southlake. And also, when nurses have positive views of themselves, including self compassion, self esteem, self efficacy, they are more likely to engage in constructive conflict management, which contributes to team effectiveness. And so that's really important for nurse leaders to promote that in their staff, the self compassion, the self esteem, to be kind to yourself. So we know that nursing environments have a very diverse workforce, and they're diverse in individuals' characteristics and their work values, and that provides an opportunity for creative and creating synergistic teams because of diverse workforces, but it also can lead to conflict. And so, to successfully manage stress and conflict in the work environment, leaders need to understand the unique context of their nursing workforce. So, for instance, in environments where diversity is feared, conflict is often avoided as nurses do not want to be viewed in a negative light by their peers, so they don't want to bring up any issues. Also, given the tribalistic culture of many nursing environments, where nurses often have informal assumptions or loyalties within their work teams, these fears are quite common, especially for students and novice nurses who feel the need to earn their place on the team. So you're not going to speak up. And so it's really important for nurse leaders that they can understand their team to be able to effectively lead the nursing workforce by creating cultures that embrace diversity. So let's look at the types of conflict. So we recognize that conflict is a part of everyday life. And so it's important for us to understand how to master conflict management strategies in order to improve our overall professional and personal well-being. So the first thing we need to do is determine the type of conflict present in a given situation. And so once you have the conflict accurately defined, the more likely you can resolve it. And so there's three types of conflict that we typically see. It can be intrapersonal, interpersonal, or organizational. So intrapersonal is within. So it occurs within a person when confronted with the need to think or act in a way that seems at odds with one's personality, your goals, your values, and it results in this emotional disharmony within yourself. And so questions often arise that create a conflict over priorities, ethical standards, and values. And so in professions like nursing, which are heavily identified by best practice ideals, intrapersonal conflicts are likely to be triggered when the reality of their nursing role falls out of alignment with the ideals that they have been taught to adhere to. And so this tension between the nursing ideals and the reality of the role can produce chronic intrapersonal conflict, especially for those who lack self-compassion. And so oftentimes nurses will feel they just don't have enough time to spend with patients, and that can be an intrapersonal conflict. Interpersonal conflict occurs between and among patients, family members, nurses, physicians, and members of other departments. So this is outside of the intrapersonal part. And so conflicts occur that focus on maybe a difference of opinion, priorities, or approach. And these conflicts can become heavily subjective when involved parties feel that their sense of belonging or esteem or their moral or ethical values are threatened. And so members of healthcare teams often have disputes over the best way to treat particular patient cases or disagreements in determining how much information is necessary for patients and family to have about their illness. And so intrapersonal conflicts, as you can imagine, are the most common type of conflict experienced by nurses in the workplace. And lastly, organizational conflict arises when disagreements or discord exist about policies and procedures, codes of conduct, or accepted norms of behavior and patterns of communications. So nurse leaders and their staff often become in conflict situations concerning staffing patterns, so maybe nurse to patient ratio or RN to RPN ratio. And there's a real sense that it affects quality of care. So it results in this moral, ethical dissonance within the individual. Other complex ethical and moral dilemmas may arise over the allocation of limited resources and funding for healthcare delivery. So in upper levels of nursing leadership, you may feel that. So the following are forces that can contribute to effective conflict management in the practice environment. So first of all, the organizational structure, and that is looking at, do nurses feel empowerment and do they feel that there's a shared decision making? Management or leadership style, so having nursing leaders that create an environment that is empowering. It empowers leadership opportunities among nurses. It encourages and values feedback, demonstrates effective communication with their staff. Personnel policies and programs, looking at efforts to promote nurse work-life balance. Protecting the image of nurses while also promoting authenticity and diversity of ideas. And so that's looking at nurses effectively influencing system-wide processes. And lastly, promoting autonomy by empowering nurses to be leaders and providing opportunities to engage in organizational governance, so leadership opportunities. So let's think about it. Recall a situation in which you had an interpersonal conflict with someone. Describe or think about your verbal and nonverbal communication and how each person responded. What was the outcome? Was the conflict resolved? Were any issues left unresolved? And how might you handle this situation in the future? So I'm going to stop there and then we will come back and discuss stages of conflict.